I'm Jenny from the Hunter Melanoma Foundation. Melanoma is the most serious form of skin cancer. Its main cause is exposure to UV radiation from either the sun or from solariums or sunbeds. If you're lucky enough to have your melanoma spotted early by a doctor or skin specialist, you can expect surgery to cut out any trace of the cancerous cells around the site of the melanoma. Those not so lucky can expect many surgeries, chemotherapy and other treatments in the hope that their life can be saved. A lot of young people mistakenly believe that melanoma is an older person's disease. Unfortunately, this is not true. Melanoma is the most common cancer in young Australians aged 14 to 44. Add to that statistic the fact that our region has one of the highest incidence of melanoma in the world. And you can see why we're trying to spread the word about sun safety in the hope that you don't get cut. All 6 of these young people live in our region. They have all had melanoma. Toronto, Fletcher, Maryland, Stockton, Lambton and Nelson Bay. Their lives at 14 were probably not too different to yours. They loved outdoor activities, sport, friends, the beach, music, dancing and their pets. They could live in your street. You might even know them. They have all had melanoma. Matt, also known as Action Man, has fair skin and ginger hair, high risk factors for melanoma. Matt grew up by the lake at Toronto, spending a lot of time on the water, boating and water skiing, and playing all kinds of outdoor sport. He went to Toronto High. Matt was first diagnosed with the melanoma on his arm when he was 14 years old. Yes, he was just 14. 14 when he had his first melanoma surgically removed. Matt had a second melanoma cut out at 29. Erin is blonde with fair skin and a self-confessed tanaholic. She loves the outdoors, swimming, the beach, shopping and friends. During lunch and recess at school, Erin and her friends would sit in the sun and sunbake their legs. Erin had a melanoma cut off her leg when she was 22.
My name is Erin and I'm 25 years old. I remember when I was your age, I enjoyed hanging out with my friends and heading to the beach most weekends in summer. I would lay in the sun without any sun cream or sun protection for hours and hours. I even spent my recess and lunch at school tanning in the playground. I never ever thought of the damage the sun was doing to my body. Around the time of my 18th birthday, I decided I should probably get a skin check. The doctor at the skin cancer clinic suggested he take individual photos of each mole on my body and keep them on file. I agreed and it took nearly an hour. The doctor suggested I come back for another visit around my 19th birthday. My next visit to the skin cancer clinic involved the removal of a few moles and they came back non-cancerous. With the year of my 21st being a busy year, I forgot to book an appointment. Just after my 22nd birthday, I booked an appointment for another checkup. I had become concerned about a mole on my thigh. I told the doctor and he had a quick look and told me not to worry about it. I insisted that it had changed and he told me I could make another appointment if I felt the need. I felt silly making another appointment. Was I overreacting? It was just another mole. The thought of cancer never crossed my mind. The next week, I revisited the skin cancer clinic and had an appointment with my regular doctor. He retrieved the previous photograph of the mole and performed surgery on the mole then and there. 3 days later, I received a call from the doctor informing me that the mole had been melanoma. I couldn't believe it. I was only 22. I then had to tell my family and friends, which was hard because the doctor couldn't guarantee that everything would be okay. 2 weeks later, I went in for surgery and spent 5 weeks on crutches. I couldn't believe that all my time in the sun as a teenager had done this to my body. After I was given the all clear, I began 3 monthly visits to the melanoma unit. Today, I attend 6 monthly visits to the skin cancer clinic and I check my moles once a month. I always cover up when I go out in the sun and I use fake tan. If I didn't insist on making that second appointment, my life wouldn't be like this today. You know your body the best. Do regular checkups and see a doctor if anything changes. I was one of the lucky ones.
Holly lives at Nelson Bay and went to Newcastle Grammar. Her girlfriends love to spend weekends at the beach sunbaking, so Holly went too. Holly had a mole on her shoulder cut off when she was 18. Tests revealed it was melanoma. She didn't know what melanoma was.
My name is Holly. I was 18 years old when I found out that I had a melanoma. My doctor noticed the mole on my shoulder when I was seeing her for something else. I'd never even considered getting my skin checked. I never paid much attention to my skin. I have lots of moles and they all look the same to me. I assumed that once the mole was removed from my shoulder, that would be the end of it. My parents and my doctor had to explain to me that a melanoma was in fact cancer, and that if it's left untreated you can die. I was so shocked. I required a second surgery to remove more of the surrounding tissue from where the original mole was. I was very lucky that it was noticed early and wasn't too deep, but I still needed layers of internal stitches and 10 external ones. I live in Nelson Bay and I went to Newcastle Grammar School. I have very fair skin, but in high school all of my girlfriends loved to go to the beach on weekends to sunbake. Because I didn't want to be left out, I would always go to, and I wouldn't wear sunscreen because no one else did. I found out the day after my HSC exam, just as I was looking forward to going away to Byron Bay and the Gold Coast for schoolies. It was so stressful at the time, and it still is. I get my skin checked every 6 months now, and I always get nervous. I have since had 2 more moles removed, both of which were benign. It was such an important lesson to learn, and I'm so conscious of my skin now, and I always wear sunscreen. I still love the look of having a tan, but now I never sunbake. For special occasions now, I get a spray tan. I'm now 24 years old and making the most of every minute. I'm just back from 2 amazing months in Europe and have another trip planned for South America. Then I intend to finish my degree and begin an exciting career as a primary school teacher, where my students can expect a lesson or 2 on sun safety.
Scott went to Kurri Kurri High School. He loved the outdoors, wakeboarding, jet skiing, golf, walking his 2 German shepherds. Scott had a mole behind his ear removed 6 weeks before his wedding day. It was melanoma. He was 25. Surgery followed to remove a wider section of tissue and a skin graft from his thigh. After 3 years of 3 monthly checkups, a lump was detected in Scott's neck. Scott underwent more surgery to remove the lump. Tracy Garner didn't like sunbaking. Her skin was fair and would burn easily, but she liked to look tanned. Her solution, Solariums. She thought it was a safe way to tan. At 29, Tracy spotted a mole that was getting larger on her thigh. She had a gut feeling something was wrong, and she was right: melanoma.
My name is Tracy and I'm 34 years old. This may sound very weird, but every time I sat down to go to the toilet, I noticed it. It was a brown mole on the top of my left thigh, about 2 millimeters in width, that had slowly tripled in size, looked irregular in shape, and it produced black dots inside it. I'd been to the doctors twice before when I'd noticed it looking bigger, and my GP had told me it was fine. I was 29 at the time, and my grandmother had recently passed away, which reminded me that we aren't all indestructible. That prompted me to ask my GP about it again. It's funny, I just felt like something wasn't right. I went to my GP, now for the 3rd time, asking about this changing mole. Realising my concern, the GP finally referred me to a specialist, and I booked it as soon as I could. My first visit to the specialist was to basically check out my skin, and he too thought this mole deserved further investigation. Another appointment a week later, and the suspect mole was removed and sent for testing. The specialist explained that he didn't see much of a problem with the mole, but that it's better to be safe than sorry. I got a call from the specialist's room 4 days later to come in the next day. My mum came with me for moral support, gotta love mums, and the specialist explained to me that the suspect mole was in fact a melanoma, and I would need to have surgery to ensure all of it was removed. Because the mole was on my leg, the specialist also explained that I'd need to have 2 weeks off work. The surgery went well and the melanoma was successfully removed. I was told that it had only gone under the skin by 0.03 millimeters and that it was quite a slow growing melanoma. So the big question, why me? With no family history of melanoma and a lifestyle of mostly indoor sport, hobbies and work, the answer was obvious: solariums. For a few summers I would go to solariums quite regularly, sometimes once a week, sometimes every 2nd day, and then sometimes I wouldn't go for months. In my mind, because I didn't actually burn like I did in the sun, I thought I was getting a safe tan. I was very wrong. I now know that solariums and sunbeds produce 5 times the amount of UV radiation than the midday sun. I'm convinced my melanoma was caused by solarium use. I still like to look tan, I just can't kick the tanning habit, but today there are so many alternatives with a whole range of natural looking spray tans and lotions.
I'm now happily married to a great guy named Brett, who is always there to help with my tan and a can experiments, and we have a beautiful baby girl, Layla Rose.
Leanne went to Lambton High School. Blonde-haired, blue-eyed, fair-skinned, Leanne loved going to the beach with friends, as well as parties and dancing. She loved having a tan. When a friend pointed out a small, suspicious-looking freckle on her ankle, Leanne decided to get it checked by her doctor. It was removed and tested. It was melanoma. Leanne had no idea what melanoma was. She was 27 when she had further surgery to remove surrounding tissue. 2 years later, on one of her regular checkups, doctors found a lump in her leg. More surgery followed, then 12 months of chemotherapy. As you can see, skin cancer, and in particular melanoma, is not to be taken lightly. And though you're probably all aware of the slip, slop, slap message, for some reason we are seeing teenagers, young people just like you, still sunbaking at lunchtime to tan their legs, lying in the sun at the beach, and going to solariums. So here are some facts we need to know. Melanoma kills. The Hunter region has one of the highest incidence of melanoma in the world. Melanoma can be cured when detected and treated early. Melanoma may occur on any part of the body. The most common area for a melanoma to appear on a male is the back, and in females, the legs. Melanoma is the most common cancer diagnosed in young Australians aged 15 to 44. The major cause of skin cancer is exposure to UV radiation from the sun and other sources such as solariums. Solariums, sunbeds, sun lamps and tanning booths emit UV radiation 5 times stronger than the midday sun. Solariums significantly increase risk of melanoma and skin cancer in users, particularly those under 35. 1 in 3 Australians will develop some form of skin cancer during their lifetime. The number of sunburns experienced in early life greatly increases the lifetime risk of developing melanoma. The prevention of the majority of melanomas is unbelievably simple. Stay out of the sun when UV radiation is at its highest, 11 AM to 3 PM. Apply broad spectrum 30+ sunscreen. Wear hat, sunglasses and shirt if you are exposed to the sun. Stay in the shade where possible. Do not use solariums, sunbeds, sun lamps. If you must have a tan, use fake tans. Over 90% of skin cancers can be treated if detected early. Check your spots for change using the ABCD method. A is for asymmetry, B is for border, C for colour and D for diameter. Every year, 9,500 Australians are diagnosed with melanoma. 1,600 Australians die from skin cancer each year, the majority from melanoma. 50 people died from melanoma last year in this region. As you can see, melanoma is not an older person's disease. It's not a disease that only affects people in other parts of the world. It kills young people right here in our neighbourhoods. Young people whose hopes and dreams will never be realised, whose potential will never be reached, whose lives have been cut short. Like Matt, Action Man, first melanoma at 14, second at 29. His life cut short at 31 years of age. Matt, who loved karaoke and volunteered as a rodeo clown to help keep others safe, who had his own landscaping business, who volunteered on the Hunter Melanoma Committee. And Leanne, beautiful, vivacious Leanne, first diagnosed at 27. Her life cut short at 30 years of age. Leanne, who had her own hairdressing business in Broadmeadow, who loved family, friends, and her 2 border collies, Grace and Hollywood. And like Scott, first diagnosed with melanoma at 25. His life cut short at 28 years of age. Scott, who'd just been married and was making plans for a bright future, whose courageous fight against melanoma inspired those around him. 3 young lives tragically cut short due to melanoma.
The reason I'm telling you my story is since I've had my melanoma removed, 2 people I know have lost their young lives to melanoma. My friend Leanne at 31 and Scott just 28. A devastating blow for their family and friends. Unimaginable sadness to think of their lives they could have had. Their hopes, dreams, and future plans of kids and grandkids gone. My message to you is pretty simple. 1. A tan just isn't to die for. 2. Don't think it can't happen to you because you're young. And 3. Trust your instincts. If you're worried about a spot, insist on a second or third opinion until you're satisfied. I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm going to live my life to the fullest in memory of the friends I've lost.
It's time for Gen Z to take a stand against skin cancer. This is your time, your chance to change the statistics instead of becoming one. Don't drink, don't take drugs, don't speed, don't eat junk, don't. You must be sick and tired of being told what's good for you, but not nearly as sick and tired as you'll feel after several surgeries and 12 months of chemotherapy. Take skin cancer seriously. Stay out of the sun. Don't use tanning beds. If you must have a tan, get a spray tan. If you think wearing a hat is a tad daggy, imagine wearing a wig to cover your bald head. Tell your friends, tell your family, and don't risk having your life cut short. The last words on the subject are the most powerful. They are the mother's words at her daughter's funeral, and they speak for themselves. Annie, not a day goes by that I don't think of my little Annie. Her smile, her infectious laugh, or her knack for making me feel happy when no one else could. Annie was 27 when she was first diagnosed with a melanoma. Less than 3 years later, just after her 30th birthday, my Annie was gone. I never would have thought that a small dark freckle on her ankle could take my little girl away and rob me of all the future mother-daughter memories we were set to make. Annie had her whole life ahead of her. She loved the beach, parties, dancing, and her 2 beautiful border collies, Grace and Hollywood. She had a wonderful group of friends. She had worked her way through a hairdressing apprenticeship and had realised her dream of buying and working in her own salon at Broadmeadow. But the moment the doctor told Annie she had a melanoma, her life was forever changed. She had the melanoma removed and we were given hope that she would be okay. But 2 years later, a lump appeared on her leg, and the doctor told us that the melanoma had spread to Annie's lymph glands and through her body. Chemotherapy was the only option. Every 3 weeks for 12 months, I would drive Annie to the hospital to have chemo, and then care for her through the bouts of nausea that followed. I watched as life slowly slipped away from Annie. The whole time I wished there was something more I could do. It is amazing how quickly the time went, and hard to believe that something like this could happen to a girl who was so young, fit and healthy. I will always remember the last moments I spent with Annie in her room at the Mater Hospital, and I will forever hold in my heart the last words she whispered, "I love you, Mum." I wouldn't trade a thing for the time I spent with Annie and the countless special memories we made. But I would give the world to have her back and hear those words again. We never thought that this would happen to our Annie, so please don't think it could never happen to you.